I'm back again. I just wanted to shoot a video today. I went to those stomping grounds and didn't take my camera with me. This is a big piece of material. See if I can make something out of that. It's pretty good size. Now I didn't find anything just extra spectacular today. That's got some pretty colors in it. Flake knife. But I thought check this out. It's got working all over the edge. A friend of mine told me one time he was in a conversation with another guy that liked to use big words. The problem is he didn't know how to use them. He didn't know the appropriate words at the appropriate time. And they were talking about something that was coincidental. And he said, well, isn't that erotic? So I kind of thought it erotic today that we were talking about hafted scrapers and whatnot. And pretty much that's all I found was hafted scrapers and flake tools. They really had a use for those hafted scrapers at the old stomping grounds, and the Sidekick both. Whoop. I got a towel too, Rockhead. And all of them is tapered to one side. They're not beveled evenly. They're all beveled to one side, almost every one of them that I find around here, and they may be that way everywhere else too. But you can see them; they're all tapered to one side. And here's the only point that I found today that was complete. It's a sweet little piece. It's translucent. I like it pretty good. But anyway, I got these drills out. There's been some questions come up, and probably everybody has them. I do too. And, concerning the drills, whether they were actually used as drills, like a lot believe, and I do too. But I guess the issue with a lot was that, and I had one guy in particular, goes by the username of Rock of Ages, asked me if I had a drill that was perfectly ground on all edges, and I told him I did in fact have one. This is the only one that I have. If I can get this to where you can see it, you can see how polished the edge of that is, and it's that way all the way around. Now, whether that's use wire from being used as a drill or not, I couldn't tell you. But it's the slickest one that I've ever found. In fact, you can even see where it's, the grinding marks are going opposite of the grain of the rock. But there's nothing sharp about that at all. I can squeeze it and mash on it and it's not going to cut me. Well, you can see it. So if that was a drill, it was well used. And it could have been, My opinion is, I think it depends a lot on what they're drilling. If they're drilling stone, they're going to be more apt to be, like this. But if that's the case, then all these others perhaps were drilling wood. But on all of them, if you notice, most every one of them that I've got in this case here, with the exception of one, most all the other ones has a rounded tip, which indicates, use wear. That one right there is actually about 3/4 of an inch of the tip of that's been restored. I found the base of it, and that's the only reason I had it restored was because of the color in it, and it changed over. Well, what I found was about that much of it. But anyway, all these others, you know, they don't have that slick edge like the other ones do. But I think they show use wear, you know, on the tip, which is, you know, the primary working surface. I guess depending on what they're drilling through or into. If it's something thin, you know, they wouldn't need nothing other than the tip just to make a piercing hole or whatnot. I don't know what this little deal is right here, but it's got some pretty colors in it, whatever it is. It's a little artifact of some kind. But I just want to touch on that about the drills, and like I said, nearly every one that I have has that tip rounded on them. And they're, you know, they're pretty slick, you know, on the tip, but not so much. Well, that one's got quite a bit of wire down the side of it. It's not sharp. Unlike this one here. And that one right there, it's pretty sharp, you know. And it may have just been recently resharpened, you know, when they lost it. But, you know, I often wondered, you know, of course, I don't believe at all this right here was ever a projectile point. I think they needed a drill. They picked them up a piece of rock and made them a drill. Whereas this one was probably a projectile point at one time. Don't believe this one ever was. I believe they needed a drill. And, of course, about half of them, you know. And I don't know what this one really was or if it ever was anything to begin with, but look at what a bevel on that thing. That, in fact, could be considered more like a little knife rather than a drill, because it's so thin. The base is just like paper. You that watch my videos, I found that at the Centipede on the surface before I ever started digging it one year. But these, you know, like this, you know, they were projectiles before. This right here was a Benton. Big Benton blade. These right here, T-drills, possibly were Big Sandy, you know, projectile points before they were broken. In fact, both of those came from those stomping grounds, which had plenty of Big Sandys found from it. I'm not quite sure on this one right here. It could have been a paleo point or blade, you know, they made into it. There's another Big Benton. But, and some of these, like this right here, you know, they're probably just one or two stages away from being, you know, something like this. Just another resharpening or two. But anyway, that's just you know, some examples of some drills that I have, and what I really wanted to touch on more than anything is the fact that these tips, they're all rounded, and a lot of people don't find enough drills to study them. But I've got, you know, I've been fortunate to find tons of drills, both broken and whole, and all of them, most all of them, have rounded tips, and they show use wear. Whereas this one is the only one that I've ever seen that's slick, which might indicate that they were drilling stone with it rather than wood, which could possibly be what all these other ones were used for, which in my opinion wouldn't show near as much use wear if you're drilling through wood than it would drilling through stone. I believe maybe some of these, you know, that in their sharper stages, they could have been used, you know, to gig frogs or fish or even small game. They would work just as well on a dart as anything in here, and probably better, you know, in a lot of instances. But anyway, there's a sweet point right there. There's a little beaver. He's got some pretty colors. He came from the field I found my lost lake in last year, and that big sloth point that I found. But I appreciate y'all watching. You know, I said this was ironic that I'd find these in loom of what we've been discussing, but really not so much erotic as maybe it would be if it was somewhere else. But I find tons of these at old stomping grounds. I find probably a third as many of these as I do points and blades outside the broken stuff. Appreciate y'all watching.